Shannon gently rocked her 3-month-old daughter, Jamie, in a quiet corner of the hotel ballroom, while the Patterson family reunion buzzed with laughter, champagne, and legacy speeches. Her husband, Noah, stood near the stage, rehearsing the words he would say as he accepted the prestigious Family Legacy Award. Guests smiled at him with admiration, unaware of the truth Shannon had uncovered just hours earlier. That morning, a preview message lit up on Noah's phone, from his assistant Kate, his mistress. It wasn't just an affair. It was betrayal wrapped in business plans, secret vacations, and deception. Shannon had stared at the screen in silence, her heart racing. But instead of screaming, she smiled, because she knew something Noah didn't. At exactly 10 a.m., while his father introduced him on stage, a scheduled video call from Kate would light up the ballroom's massive projector screen. And Shannon? She was the one who made sure it would happen. Shannon was 31, sharp-minded, quietly confident, and deeply respected in her field as an IT project manager. She had carved her own path in Detroit's competitive tech scene, known for her discipline and ability to keep calm under pressure. Her life had once felt perfectly balanced. Married to Noah Patterson, vice president at Patterson Industries, the crown jewel of his family's legacy. Together, they had been the kind of couple others envied, ambitious, elegant, and always appearing perfectly in sync at charity galas and corporate events. But that public image had cracks, and Shannon had started noticing them the moment their daughter Jamie was born. Noah came from wealth and tradition. His last name opened doors, but it was Shannon's steady brilliance that grounded their household. She had met him back in college. He was charismatic, driven, and obsessed with legacy. She had fallen for his energy, his vision, and the way he spoke about building a future together. Back then, they were equals. They stayed up late talking about startups and innovation, dreamed about launching their own tech consultancy one day. Shannon focused on credentials, internships, and hands-on coding. Noah leaned into networking, image, and family connections. It was a contrast, but they made it work. Until the balance shifted after Jamie arrived. In the weeks leading up to her daughter's birth, Shannon had expected a team effort, late-night feedings, shared diaper duty, a rhythm they'd figure out together. But almost immediately, Noah began distancing himself. His late nights at work became more frequent. He blamed board meetings, expansion plans, and quarterly stress. Shannon wanted to believe him. She was exhausted from the emotional highs and lows of new motherhood. Every time she looked at Jamie's face, she reminded herself they were building a family worth fighting for. But Kate Parker's sudden appearance changed everything. Kate was 28, with a polished Instagram-perfect look and a designer wardrobe that didn't match her assistant's salary. She joined Patterson Industries 6 months ago and quickly became Noah's shadow. Shannon noticed how often Kate texted him, at dinner, during date nights, even while they were in the delivery room. At first, Shannon tried to ignore it. She was used to being surrounded by professional women. But something about Kate's demeanor rubbed her wrong. She wasn't just efficient, she was territorial. Too familiar. Too confident. Then came the little signs. Noah started wearing cologne he hadn't touched in years. He changed his phone password, but brushed it off as a security update. Their intimacy faded. His excuses grew thin. Shannon felt the shift deep in her gut, but said nothing. Instead, she poured herself into Jamie, determined to hold the family together until she had clarity. That clarity came the morning of the Patterson family reunion. As Noah showered, his phone lit up with a message preview from Kate. "Don't forget to smile at me during your speech, babe. Loved this morning." The words hit Shannon like a slap. She didn't panic. She picked up the phone, entered their wedding anniversary, and unlocked it in one try. Hundreds of messages poured in. Photos, reservations, a scheduled vacation to the Maldives. And worse, Kate's involvement in secret meetings to poach Patterson clients for a new company she and Noah were quietly launching. In that moment, everything shifted. Shannon's world didn't collapse. It sharpened. Her instincts as a mother and strategist merged. She realized the stage Noah was about to stand on, was the perfect place to expose the truth. And thanks to her IT experience, she already had access to the hotel's AV system. Shannon sat frozen on the edge of the hotel bed, her fingers still wrapped around Noah's phone. She had entered their wedding date, August 12, 2017, and the screen had unlocked without resistance. What stared back at her wasn't just a string of flirtatious messages. It was an avalanche of betrayal. There were hundreds of texts from Kate, many of them laced with intimacy. Photos taken in hotel rooms, confirmations for dinners, private bookings, and even 2 first-class tickets to the Maldives for next month. Shannon scrolled with methodical precision, her heart pounding, but her mind sharpening with every swipe. Then came the part that made her jaw tighten. Conversations between Noah and Kate, outlining plans to approach high-value clients from Patterson Industries. They were drafting emails, discussing NDAs, and even referencing the best time to break away from the company without raising suspicion. This wasn't just infidelity, it was corporate sabotage. Shannon didn't scream. She didn't cry. She stood up slowly, looked at herself in the mirror, and took a deep breath. Her baby girl Jamie was sleeping peacefully in the crib beside the bed. Shannon's focus shifted from shock to strategy. Her experience in IT project management had taught her one thing: chaos can be controlled with the right plan and the right tools. She pulled out her laptop from the baby bag, connected it to the hotel's AV network, something she had scoped out earlier when helping coordinate the tech side of the reunion, and logged into the control system for the ballroom's massive projection screens. It didn't take long to find what she needed. At exactly 10:00 IEM, there was a scheduled Zoom call marked Kate Morning Check-in. Shannon felt her stomach turn. It had been preloaded into Noah's calendar and set to auto-answer from his device. Clearly, Kate expected a quick, flirtatious video chat during the award ceremony. Shannon checked the AV system's input settings and routed all incoming calls from Noah's phone directly to the main ballroom projector screen. It was seamless, silent, invisible. Patricia, Noah's mother, knocked on the door around 9:20, cooing at Jamie and offering to take her downstairs early to greet the rest of the family. Shannon smiled politely, handed over her daughter, and thanked her. Inside, she was buying herself the final moments she needed. Once the room was empty, Shannon returned to the console and double-checked everything: connection status, screen routing, microphone sync. Nothing would go wrong. Nothing could interrupt what was about to happen. As the clock crept toward 10, Shannon composed herself. She changed into a simple navy dress, tied her hair back, and slipped on her flats. Her demeanor was calm, almost serene. She didn't need to scream or make a scene. The truth would do that for her, and the truth was about to hit the Patterson family harder than any scandal in their history. Noah thought he was going to walk on stage and be celebrated. Instead, he was about to be exposed by the one woman he never thought would outplay him: his wife. Minutes before the ceremony began, Shannon walked calmly into the AV booth, tucked behind the ballroom's heavy curtains. Noah's phone, now connected via standard adapter, lay in the input tray of the projector system. She double-checked the routing. Everything was ready. The scheduled video call from Kate was set to come through at 10:00 IM, right in the middle of the Family Legacy Award presentation. Shannon didn't flinch. Her pulse was steady, her hands sure. She slipped back into the main room and took her seat with the rest of the Patterson family. Jamie rested quietly in her carrier beside her, unaware of the storm about to erupt. The ballroom lights dimmed, and soft music faded into the background. Robert Patterson, CEO of Patterson Industries and Noah's father, stepped onto the stage. A warm spotlight settled on him as he adjusted the microphone. He began speaking with the slow, practiced cadence of a seasoned businessman. His voice echoed across the room as he talked about tradition, responsibility, and integrity values he claimed were the cornerstone of their family's legacy. Shannon kept her eyes on the stage, her face composed, as she waited for the moment to arrive. At the exact second Robert gestured toward the podium to welcome his son, the screen behind him flickered. The feed changed. Instead of the expected Patterson Industries logo, a live video began to play. Kate Parker's face filled the 20-foot screen, illuminated by the soft glow of her apartment. She leaned toward the camera, her voice sultry and casual. "Hey, babe," she said. "Great job this morning. You always know how to wake me up the right way. Just remember, after your speech, we need to call Simon and Jessica about moving those 3 clients. They're ready to jump ship." The entire room froze. Gasps shot through the air. Someone dropped a glass. Robert turned toward the screen in confusion, then looked at Noah, who had gone pale. Kate, still unaware she was broadcasting to an entire ballroom full of executives, family members, and media guests, continued speaking. "I mean you okay, and I don't forget to text me after. I miss you already." Finally, she looked up and noticed something wasn't right. Her face twisted in confusion. "Noah? Why aren't you saying anything?" A moment later, her eyes darted around, and the realization hit her. She was not in a private call. The screen went black. Shannon sat still, one hand resting on Jamie's carrier. She didn't move, didn't speak. She didn't need to. The truth had spoken for her. Eyes turned toward Noah, whose mouth opened, but no words came out. Jamie came to him for answers, for damage control, for anything, but he stood there, frozen. Robert backed away from the podium, his expression stunned and betrayed. Whispers turned to murmurs. Murmurs turned into chaos. And Shannon? She remained seated, a quiet storm in the eye of the destruction she had so precisely orchestrated. The silence that followed the video call was suffocating. Noah stood frozen, the spotlight still on him, but there was nothing left to say. Robert stepped forward, visibly shaken. He didn't bother to hide his disgust. Without raising his voice, he looked his son square in the eye and said, "Leave, now." Noah hesitated, but Robert didn't repeat himself. A few family members tried to intervene, but it was too late. The damage was done. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was corporate, public, and irreversible. Shannon stood up calmly, collected Jamie's carrier, and as she passed Noah on her way to the exit, she said just loud enough for him to hear, "I'll be filing for full custody." His eyes followed her, but he didn't say a word. By the time Shannon reached the parking lot, her phone was buzzing with messages. Screenshots of Kate's call were already circulating. Guests had recorded the moment and posted it online. Within an hour, local news outlets picked up the story. Patterson scandal erupted from family legacy event. Shannon checked into another hotel across the city. She locked the door, fed Jamie, and called her attorney. There would be no waiting period, no hesitations. She was filing for divorce and full custody immediately. More importantly, she needed to confirm what she already suspected, that Kate had used insider knowledge to target Patterson Industries clients. Her lawyer moved quickly. Within 24 hours, they had traced multiple contacts between Kate and key clients. Meal Zoom logs, proposal drafts. Shannon documented everything. She even included the text logs and call schedules she had recovered from Noah's phone. It wasn't just a moral breach, it was a violation of business ethics and corporate law. The Patterson board convened an emergency session the next morning. Shannon didn't attend, but her presence was felt. Her name came up repeatedly in client meetings as the only Patterson executive clients trusted. Her work in IT, security, and infrastructure had been crucial to the firm's digital transformation. That afternoon, Shannon received a message from Robert. He asked to speak with her privately. They met in a quiet cafe downtown. He looked tired, older than he had 2 days ago. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke. "I don't know what to say except I'm sorry, for everything. I may see in it." Shannon listened quietly. Then he made the offer. The board wanted her to step in as chief technology officer. More than that, clients were threatening to walk if she didn't. Shannon sipped her tea, then gave her response. "I'll accept," she said, "but only on one condition. I want a seat on the board. No more shadows. No more back rooms." Robert didn't hesitate. Done. That same evening, Noah's company accounts were frozen. His email access was revoked. Security escorted him out of the Patterson offices. Kate was formally terminated and hit with a cease and desist order. Shannon returned to the company, not as Noah's wife, but as the new CTO and a board member. Her reputation, once tied to her husband's legacy, was now leading the next chapter of it. Shannon arrived at Patterson Industries the following Monday morning, not as someone's wife, but as the newly appointed Chief Technology Officer and board member. Her presence carried a new weight. Gone were the days of being referred to as Noah's brilliant wife. Now she was the one making decisions, the one others answered to. She walked through the front doors with Jamie nestled in a car seat, her assistant close behind. A quiet hush swept through the lobby as employees looked up from their desks, fully aware that the tides had changed. She nodded once at the receptionist and made her way to the executive floor, where her new office. One of her first acts as CTO was to initiate a full internal audit of the company's data infrastructure. She brought in her own cybersecurity team, made up of specialists she had worked with during freelance contracts in her early career. Within days, she identified vulnerabilities that had gone unnoticed for years. By the end of her second week, she had announced the creation of a dedicated cybersecurity division under her direct supervision. Investors took notice. Stock prices began to stabilize. Confidence returned. While Robert had once been the face of the company's legacy, Shannon quickly emerged as the face of its future. She changed the tone of leadership meetings. Instead of flashy presentations and rehearsed talking points, she demanded real metrics, real feedback, and real accountability. Several of Noah's closest allies resigned quietly, sensing the end of their influence. Others adjusted quickly, eager to remain relevant under her rule. Her calm, strategic approach inspired both fear and respect. She wasn't cruel. She was clear, and her results spoke louder than anything Noah had ever accomplished. Meanwhile, word spread that Kate had been spotted in Miami, staying at a boutique hotel near the beach. She had dyed her hair and taken down most of her social media accounts. Rumors circulated that she was trying to pitch her version of events to any venture capitalist willing to listen. But with legal action pending and her name splashed across multiple media outlets in connection to corporate espionage, few doors opened. Back in Detroit, Noah made one final attempt to regain access to the Patterson building. He showed up at the front entrance without an appointment, hoping his name still carried weight. Security met him in the lobby and informed him, respectfully but firmly, that he was no longer permitted on the premises. He stood outside for nearly 10 minutes, staring up at the building that had once been his second home. When he finally left, it was without incident and without dignity. Inside, Shannon made subtle but powerful changes to the company's image. She had the portrait of the Patterson family gala, once proudly hung in the boardroom, removed. In its place, she commissioned a framed photo of herself delivering the keynote speech at the Detroit Women in Tech Summit, where she had just been honored for innovation in cybersecurity leadership. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. The old guard had fallen. A new era had begun. Despite the workload, Shannon remained a dedicated mother. Jamie often accompanied her to the office, cared for by a trusted nanny in a suite next to her mother's. Shannon refused to let the past shape Jamie's future. She took breaks to nurse her, to play with her, to read to her, between strategy meetings and investor calls. Her colleagues quickly learned that board meetings might include the soft gurgle of a baby in the background, and no one dared question it. If anything, it added to the growing legend of who Shannon Patterson was becoming. Under her leadership, Patterson Industries began to shift direction. New partnerships were forged with tech startups. The cybersecurity division attracted government contracts. Internally, morale soared. Employees felt the change. Where once they had felt pressure to uphold a family name, now they felt inspired to build a future rooted in transparency and excellence. Shannon never gloated. She didn't seek attention or headlines. But they found her anyway. Tech journals began profiling her. Business magazines listed her among the top emerging leaders of the year. And every time a journalist asked how she managed it all, scandal, betrayal, motherhood, and a corporate overhaul, She smiled and said the same thing. Structure, vision, and knowing exactly when to stop trusting and start leading. 3 months after Shannon took over as CTO, headlines lit up with news that Kate Parker had been arrested in Miami. She had been attempting to sell proprietary client data from Patterson Industries to a rival firm when the competitor, wary of legal implications, turned her in. The FBI moved swiftly. A search warrant was issued, and agents raided her apartment, uncovering a trove of stolen documents, encrypted emails, and digital trails that pointed directly to Noah Patterson's involvement. Among the evidence was a private server that held internal strategy files, client lists, and confidential pitches, all traced back to unauthorized downloads made from Noah's corporate account. It was the final nail in the coffin. Shannon watched the news unfold with the calm detachment of someone who had already grieved. She had anticipated this moment, but she didn't relish it. She was in a meeting with her cybersecurity division when her assistant slid her phone across the table, screen lit up with the breaking news. She looked at it briefly, nodded, and returned her attention to the team discussion. The justice system was now doing what it was built for, unraveling the lies and holding those responsible accountable. Noah's legal team filed one final appeal in an attempt to reduce his sentencing exposure, but the court swiftly denied it. With the digital paper trail so damning, there was little room for negotiation. The prosecutors had enough to recommend a significant sentence, and public opinion had turned sharply against him. Noah, once the golden boy of the Patterson dynasty, was now a disgraced executive under federal investigation, his mugshot making its way across national news outlets. His reputation, once bulletproof, was now radioactive. Shannon didn't gloat. She didn't post online, didn't comment to the press. She remained focused on the business and her daughter. But justice, once slow and silent, was now loud and undeniable. Investors who had once tied their loyalty to Noah shifted firmly in Shannon's favor. Clients who had grown suspicious re-siphoned long-term contracts. And internally, the company breathed easier. One afternoon, Nicole Patterson, Noah's sister, arrived unannounced at Shannon's office. She looked tired, her shoulders heavy with the weight of family disgrace. Shannon welcomed her in, before speaking. "I just wanted you to know," she said. "He's not the same. He's broken. I don't think he ever understood how badly he messed up until it was too late." Shannon set her pen down and looked at Nicole calmly. "It's no longer my concern," she replied. "My focus is Jamie, and the future." Nicole nodded, stood, and left without asking for forgiveness. There was nothing left to say. That same week, as part of a final compliance order, Noah was officially banned from holding any executive position within the company. As he was escorted from the premises, this time not by choice, but by legal order, Shannon sat in a conference room across the building, reviewing candidates for a new senior engineering role. She was surrounded by notes, resumes, and project proposals. The door opened briefly, and she caught a glimpse of Noah being led out by 2 corporate security officers. He looked older, thinner, and completely defeated. She didn't pause. She didn't turn her head. She simply returned to her work, determined to build something better than what she had been handed. Noah had lost everything: his family, his company, and his future. And all the while, Shannon had stayed steady, unshaken. Rising. 1 year after Shannon took over as CTO and board member, Patterson Industries was almost unrecognizable from the company it had been under Noah's leadership. The transformation had been nothing short of extraordinary. Revenue had doubled. Client retention was at an all-time high, and the cybersecurity division Shannon founded had become a cornerstone of the business, attracting international partnerships and federal contracts. Offices had expanded into Toronto and London, with plans underway for an Asia-Pacific hub by the following year. What had begun as a quiet act of survival had evolved into a bold redefinition of what leadership looked like. Shannon became a sought-wire voice in the tech world, not just for her innovations, but for her unwavering clarity. She was invited to keynote global tech summits, featured in major publications, and asked to advise startups founded by women. But she remained grounded. Every opportunity was filtered through the lens of purpose. She launched the Patterson Empower Initiative, funding scholarships for underprivileged young women pursuing degrees in STEM. She returned to her alma mater to teach guest seminars, and often stayed behind afterward to answer questions one-on-one. She knew what it was like to be underestimated, and now she made it her mission to ensure others wouldn't be. At home, Jamie thrived. The toddler had a bright, curious energy and loved building towers out of coding blocks her mother had custom-designed as a gift from the company's innovation team. Their home was a place of peace, where bedtime stories were as common as board presentations, and laughter replaced the stress that once lingered in every corner. Shannon raised Jamie to ask questions, challenge norms, and see herself as a future leader, not just someone who follow others. Shannon no longer thought about Noah or Kate. Their names rarely came up. When they did, it was in the past tense, reminders of a chapter she had already closed. She didn't hate them. She didn't carry bitterness. She carried experience. Everything she had endured became fuel for the legacy she was now building. She had turned betrayal into power, chaos into clarity, and heartbreak into leadership. Her success wasn't revenge. It was reinvention. Looking around her office, Shannon could see the physical markers of growth. Blueprints for new tech centers, awards for innovation, thank you letters from scholarship recipients. But the real victory was quieter. It was in the way her team looked to her with trust. It was in her own ability to breathe freely again, without the weight of someone else's lies pulling her down. She had not just survived the storm. She had become the calm after it, the steady force that rebuilt everything, stronger, smarter, and with a heart that refused to close. This was no longer about proving anything to anyone. It was about building something that would outlast the noise, something hers. The sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Shannon's office, casting a golden hue over the polished floors. She stood quietly, arms folded, looking out over the Detroit skyline. Behind her, Jamie giggled as she rolled her toy car along the edge of a leather sofa. The news played softly on the office screen. Kate Parker had just been sentenced to 4 years in federal prison for corporate theft and fraud. The footage showed her being led out of court, head down, flanked by attorneys. Shannon didn't flinch. A notification pinged on her laptop. It was the court's final ruling. Noah's last custody appeal had been denied. Jamie was legally and permanently in Shannon's sole care. She opened the message, read it once, then filed it away without emotion. There were no tears, no triumphant smirk. Only clarity. Her assistant stepped in to remind her that the international leadership call was beginning. Shannon walked over to her desk, kissed Jamie on the forehead, and logged into the call. Her global team, engineers, directors, strategists, smiled as she appeared on screen. They didn't see a woman who had been betrayed. They saw a leader who had rebuilt everything from ashes and turned it into fire. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's rising so far above the people who tried to destroy you that they can no longer touch your name, your peace, or your future. Shannon didn't just survive, she evolved, and in doing so, she became untouchable.